doing? I'm on my tippy toes because I didn't lower the camera enough, but it's nice to see you. It's always fun to be here with you, even if I have a long and tiring day. It's always kind of an energy pump for me to be here with you guys. So thank you again for coming and for coming back again and again. If you haven't met me, I'm Margaret. I'm going to be your teacher tonight for this free class. Even though you saw that thing that says virtual tip jar, this is a free class and you're in the right place if you're here for that. The format for our class tonight is this. After I talk to you, I will turn the camera back on the table and tell you about our colors and our supplies for tonight. We'll do a quick sketch very quickly so that we can get through this painting. And then tonight's painting, a lot of it's going to come from your imagination. So I'm not going to draw every single little idea and decoration in detail. I'm going to leave that up to you so you'll have some ownership of your own design. And at the end, as always, it would be great if you'd like to post your pictures. I'll tell you a little bit later on how to do that. I do these once a month on the last Tuesday of the month, but I do not know about the last Tuesday of November because we are running into Thanksgiving, so I'm not announcing the date yet, but I'll put that up in the next week or so on Facebook so you'll know, and I'll let you know what we're doing and what time and what our idea is. If you've never been here before, I always love hearing where you're from, so if you don't mind, you can tell me what city or country or state that you're coming from, because we get people from all over and that's a lot of fun to have happen. Also, if you have a question during class, I keep one eye on that chat stream, so I will try to answer your question while we're going. And if I miss it, I'll look back through those at the end and answer all the questions with a little message to you. So keep that coming. And I think that is it. I think that's all. I'm looking at my list over there. I think that's all I need to tell you before we get started here. So let me move my camera again. You may want to have, if you need a second to go grab it, this is a good time. You may want to have a spray bottle to kind of dampen your paints beforehand. And you may want to have a heat gun or a hair dryer because there's some things that we'll want to have dry out kind of quickly on this. So if you have a chance to grab that or you have access to something like that, you may want to grab that right now. So let me put the camera down back on the table here and get my heat gun plugged in, and we'll start up in just a second. So here comes the extreme close-up. There we go. And let's put this back down. By the way, if you are new, you may not realize this, but there is a delay between what is showing on my monitor and what is happening in real life. So a lot of times, not a lot of times, but occasionally I will get off camera. I'll accidentally move my painting a little bit out of the view of the camera. And if that happens, I'll have my eye on it. So I'll be able to take care of that and fix it for you. But it's just a little heads up that that's something that happens once in a while. Okay, so let me move some things around here. I'm going to keep my pencil out. I was talking about a spray bottle, and I just use a little bitty one like this. And some of the colors that I'm using tonight, I've already misted them ahead of time just to get them primed, and they're nice and juicy that way, and we can really do a much better job with our painting. I don't like to paint with the paint that comes right out of the tube, so it's gooey like toothpaste. It's too gooey. I'll put the paint out 2 or 3 days ahead of time, like this one right here looks like it's totally gooey, but this has been out for a few days, and all you have to do is just spray a little water on the ones that you want ahead of time. So I'm using colors like Quinacridone Rose, which is this one. I might use one of the greens. This is a fun one. It's what's that one? That is Phthalo Yellow Green, or this is Bamboo Green. I'm going to use Phthalo Turquoise tonight. I'm going to use Peacock Blue. This one right here is Windsor Violet. I'm using my old palette, and a lot of the colors on here are Winsor Newton colors, but you can find most of these colors in any brand. This is a color called Bright Violet, which is a Holbein color, and this is funny color called Violetto Verzino. It's just basically a magenta. I have a bright pink called Opera. So I'm spraying a lot of different paints tonight because I want this to be really colorful. I have 2 or 3 different yellows. So I have a sunny yellow and a more golden yellow, which is Hansa Yellow Light and Windsor Yellow Deep. And I will tell you all of these again as I use them. So it's not like you have to scurry around and write these down now. I'll tell you before I dip in. I'm using a Quinacridone Sienna, which is a burnt sienna, but it's a little bit more vibrant. And I think that's it. I made it all the way around. Oh, one other thing, I'm going to use a color called Moon Glow, which I love. It's like a purpley gray. And that's what's going to give me the fun background color on this one. So those are all the paints that I'm priming ahead of time. So, hi Maureen, welcome. Welcome, it's your first time you're telling us. And thank you to your sister for recommending you to come to class. And Jackie and Jamie from Washington. And yay, Maureen from Florida. That's it, that's where you're from. Wow, that's cool. Maybe you're going to be the farthest. Here's Cindy from Michigan. Okay, well, I don't want to hold this up too much. I'll try to go back in and say hi to everybody in a few minutes. But let's get started on what we're going to do here. One other thing that you might need is just a piece of like printer paper or some kind of scratch paper. If you don't have it, it's okay, but I wanted to have one for you because there's a couple things I'm going to draw just for ideas for you, and I'm just going to use this paper. So if you don't have it, it's fine, but that's what this is about. Here is our painting for tonight. And again, yours will look probably very different from mine. So the sketch we're going to do in a second is just going to be the basic skull. And then you get to decide what shape of flowers and how many flowers you might want to have around. So I did a few different ones. I'll put it up a little closer to the camera for you. I did a few different kinds of flowers. And I'll show you a couple different ways to do the mouth this way, and then another way that's simpler. So if you are a more simple painter or somebody who maybe doesn't paint as fast, you might like to use the other idea that I'm going to show you for the mouth. And so what I want to do is zoom in a little bit. And by the way, again, if you're new, I always have to stand on a little bitty chair right next to my desk here to zoom in. And sometimes it is a little finicky letting me zoom in, so I'm working on that right. There we go. I wanted to get it a little bit closer for you on the sketch so you could see better. Okay, the paper that I'm using tonight is Arches 140-pound cold press paper, which looks like this. I use it on a block, a watercolor block, and so it's basically a pad, but it is sealed on all the edges with this black waxy glue. So really you can only access one piece at a time, but I like using that because it holds the paper you know, held down, tacked down, so that it doesn't ripple as much. So it's easier for me to use and carry. They're a little bit more expensive, but it's nice for our work here. Sometimes you'll see me tape around the edges, but I didn't do that on this one. And I notice I'm casting a little shadow. Let's see if I can move my lights around a little bit. I'll try to not shadow too much for you. You'll need a pencil and an eraser. And the brushes for tonight, I'm going to go in between. I probably won't use that one. I have 3 brushes. I have a number, the black one in the middle is a number 6 round, and the wooden one that's closer to me is, I believe that's a number 8 round, and then the red one is a small detail brush. It's about the size of a fingernail polish brush, but it has a little bit better point on it. So those are the 3 I'll use for tonight. And I have my jug of water, and also here I like to have a a towel or something, and then I put a little paper towel over the top of it, because you're going to hear me say blot your brush, and so I usually use the paper towel for that. Okay, so let's get to getting with our drawing. My paper tonight is 9 by 12, and that's what I've been painting on a lot these days, just because it's a nice little size, and if I were to sell any of these and send them in the mail, it mails nicely. So all you really need to do for now is we want to do the skull shape. You may want a wider skull. This one here on the left is a little bit narrower, and this one's slightly wider. But I like to start with just, you know, I give myself a nice rounded skull up here on the top. And if you need to, here's a little trick. I'm right-handed, so sometimes I turn it this way, and then I'll draw the other half of the skull upside down, because it helps me make it a little bit more even and matching on each side, because sometimes one of them will dent in more, but if I turn it upside down, it works better for me. I don't know why. So I've given myself that dome shape on the top, and then you see that like right where your eyes are, the skull dents in. These are the temples, and so you're going to dent it in a little bit on each side, and however much you want is fine, because this is, you know, a fun and whimsical piece. It doesn't have to be scientifically correct. So if you want it more exaggerated, you can have it cut in, and you can give yourself bigger cheekbones. So you can use your pencil like this to make sure they're even, if that helps you out, so that they dent in at the same spot. And then below that we have cheekbones. So you're going to let that come out a little bit on each side. And again, do you want exaggerated cheekbones, or do you want less cheekbone? And then again, use your pencil to kind of line up and see. I already see mine's a little bit crooked on that side, but I'm not going to worry about it too much, because we're just, you know, we're having fun with this. I'm watching my lights here because I know I see shadows and I don't want that for you. Okay, so then that comes in where your teeth are. So if you sucked in your cheeks on your face, that's this part right here. So we're going to draw these in, pull them inward. And then I did flare this out a little bit here for the jawbone, so you can see it's this place on the sample. Now this sample has a more thinner face than the one that I'm going to do here. So on this one, I let those jaw bones kind of stay a little bit wide. And then you can give yourself just a normal chin, or you can give it kind of a cleft chin if you want to. I'll do that just for fun. So I'm just going to kind of dip it up a little bit. Just put a little John Travolta divot in there. Okay, so that is our basic shape. Now, there are various ways to do the eyes. If you are brand new and you're feeling a little bit insecure, or maybe you want to just get something as easy as possible, you can just make 2 round circles for the eyes, and you can even find something in your room that is traceable. I don't have anything handy here because this is too big, but you know, something like that you could trace 2 of. You could do round eyes like that, or you can do eyes that are a little bit closer to the eye socket shape of a human. I want to show you a couple ideas on my iPad. I like to use Pinterest, and so there we go. So you can see this is one that has just the round eyes, right? And they left them black in the middle. I'll go a little closer for you. They left it black in the middle. Here's another one right here, and I can't really enlarge it because sometimes we lose the page, but it's again a round eye, but they put a flower in the middle. So that's an idea. Here's one that has a little bit more of a square eye shape. And this guy here with the diamond in the middle doesn't even really have the eye at all, the socket. They just did flowers instead. So it's a Pinterest, or even just a Google search is a good way for you to find things, ideas for your drawing. So you're going to come up with a lot of your own decorations. So having something like this that you can access is helpful to you, just because maybe you have to figure out, well, what do I want to do on the forehead, or what do I want to do on the chin? So that said, I'm going to give us eyes kind of this type of shape. So a little bit closer to what our own human eye sockets look like. Here are the temples, and so they're going to be about this, the middle of that socket is going to run right about the middle of where those dent in. Okay, and I like to kind of identify where the center of the face is, so I'm just going to put a little bit of a light line there for myself as a marker. It's pretty light, you can't really see it, and I'm going to erase it in a second, but that'll help me place the eyes. Generally there is a lift or a little arch, I guess, at the top of the eye socket. So I'm going to put that in and bring it over close to the nose. I usually will draw both of these at the same time. You know, I don't draw one completely first. I'll draw them both kind of at the same time, just so that it helps me have more of a matching look. And that way you can see, do I need to go closer? Is this distance here the same or different? And mine is already a little bit off, but these things don't matter because this is just for fun, and we can disguise it with some flowers or something later. Okay, and so as it comes along the nose here, your nose would be here. we're going to come down and give yourself, if you feel on your own face underneath your eye there's a little divot or a little dent down at the bottom here, they're almost kind of like a square-ish shape. So I'm going to find where that little dent is. I put it right below there. Sorry if it feels like I'm going fast. I just want to get us through this sketch part so we can get on to the fun. And remember, if you need it to be easier, just make circle eyes or flower eyes. All right, so I've got my eye sockets, and now your nose is basically an upside down and elongated heart. So you've already marked maybe the center here. So find a place a little bit, you know, kind of mid, a little bit, not exactly the middle of the eyes, but a little bit lower, where you want to put your nose, and give yourself a long, skinny upside down heart. And again, if it helps you, you can draw half of this heart and then turn it upside down and draw the other half, but I think I'm doing okay on this. No, I'll do it upside down. It really is a fun trick. It works a lot for me. So if I'm drawing a vase or a wine glass or something like that, I'll flip it upside down, and it really helps make it be symmetrical. Okay, so there's my nose. And I'll pause there for just a second to let you catch up. I'm going to talk about two different kinds of mouths that you can do. I like this one because I think it's fun to have individual teeth. So I'm going to draw that on this skull here. But on the sample paper, I'll show you another idea. So I'm going to move this out of the way for just a second and give myself this sample paper. So if this is my skull, I'm just going to give us a face shape. I'm not going to spend a lot of time redrawing a skull. This is our shape though, right? Okay. Let's make that a little bit darker so you could see it. All right. We did the eyes. They're up here somehow. So, and we did the nose, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So if you don't want to have the toothy mouth like this one, you can go with something simple, like, and you can make it be, I usually curve it downward a little bit like this, so I give it a slight downward curve. Now that could make your skull look unhappy or menacing, but you can then do this kind of stitched together thing, where along the center of the nose, like on the midline of the face, you can create this mark here and just kind of stitch together. So this might be easier for some folks. Whoops, that's a little bit too far. So that's just another idea. And if you do this and you like it, you can go out as far as you want. You can go all the way out and have a really extreme mouth that's super big. You don't have to curve it downwards as much as I am. You can have it go straight across. But once you get it laid out on here, you then have the choice that if you want to, you could curve the tops of these and give yourself teeth if you feel like it. Sometimes it's easier for people to draw the teeth if they do it this way. Okay, so I'm just going to do the tops for time's sake, but you get the idea. I'll do two little bottoms there. Okay, so that's another idea, but let's go back to this original one here. And we'll show you a slightly embellished one. So again, let's see, on this one, I haven't done a smiling one. How about I do a curved upwards one this time, just for fun? And this guy's going to end up having a big chin. I can already tell by where I place the mouth. It's going to be, who's that guy, that comedian? I can't think of his name. The late night talk show guy that has the big chin. Somebody will know and they'll put it in the chat. I can't remember his name. Anyway, he's got all this extra chin. Okay, so here we have that. And I want to have a little bit of space. So I'm almost going to draw a sort of a smiley face, like a little bit of a second line in there. It's almost going to have a smile. And that's going to give me the gap between the teeth. Uh-oh. I froze. Okay, well, I don't know if you can hear me, but on my monitor I'm frozen, so I'm not going to do anything yet. If you hear me, yep, shoot. I'm gonna just wait here for a second. Dang it. Usually things on the internet, it's usually fine. Dang it. Seriously, come on. Okay, I don't know if anybody is still there, so here's what I'm gonna do. I had to turn off my computer. Okay, I see some people are there. I had to stop because the monitor froze. You guys are still there. Here's what we can do. If you're seeing me, then this is what I'll do. I don't have my own monitor anymore because that froze up, but I can see you're chatting and I'm recording it on my phone. So I'm hoping that it will just be nice to us and let us keep the recording, and it'll show up as a recording later on Facebook. If not, we'll see what happens. So I'm just gonna keep going. And I'm doing this blind. I can see myself here, but I can't see a monitor. So if you're chatting with me, unfortunately, I can't see that. But if we take little breaks along the way, I'm gonna try to reconnect with my computer. And if I can do that, then I will be able to get back on the screen again with you. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, so anyway, focus back on here. Cross our fingers, people. It's because we're doing a skull and it's Halloween. Woo! All right, so we drew this little mouth gap. And now using the nose and this line here as kind of my midline, I'm going to create those teeth like what I did over here on this sample. And you can have exaggerated teeth. Maybe you want to have extra tall, extra big teeth. You can have as many as you want. You can make them crooked. Maybe one is missing. That would be fun. I'll do that on mine because I haven't had a missing one yet. So I'm going to go, let's see, how can I do that? I'll give us a missing guy in there. I'll paint it in. Okay, so you go ahead and work on your teeth. You can have fangs, Dracula fangs if you want. Then as they get farther away, they get to be a little bit shorter and wider. So let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the fourth guy over. I'm sorry that that happened. I'm glad it's still at least recording for us. So hopefully later this will be available. And if you are new, I always, I leave these up on Facebook for a while. And then after a while, I pull them down, and I'm in the process of making some of these older ones into videos that I will put up on YouTube, and I'm probably going to put them up for maybe $5. So they're free at the beginning for several months while they're up, but then later on when I kind of pull them down, I will put a charge on there. All right. Gosh, I feel bad if you're asking me questions. I can't even see it unless I get back on the monitor. Oh well. I'm making the bottom teeth a little snaggly, snaggle tooth, just a little kind of different. You could make them, and my teeth, by the way, are actually really crooked. Here, let me make a chipped one or a crooked one. I'm sorry, I meant to say my teeth are really straight. You can have any kind of teeth you want. All right. I'm going to stop with that for now, but I will do this. I'm going to make one go crooked up here because that's fun. And I'll make this one right here. I'm going to mark it, that one with a little X on it. I'm marking that because that is going to be my guy that is knocked out, a loose tooth or a missing tooth. So I'll pause here for a minute to let you catch up with that. And while I'm doing that, I'm over on the side trying to get back on the monitor for you. I wonder if I can use, I have an idea. I also have my iPad here, and I'm wondering if I could see myself on there, and I don't even have to worry about the monitor. Oh, yes, I can. Yay. Okay, let's turn the volume off. All right. There's always a way. Yes, Joanna, thank you. Jay Leno. Look, I'm back. Yay. Okay, so why don't you guys give me some thumbs up or some hearts or something when you feel a little bit caught up with this part. By the way, I'm going to erase this out of here now. And okay, I see a couple little hearts coming up. Good. Thank you. Okay. All right. So now let's talk about these flowers. If you feel like you did something on your face that is crooked, maybe one temple comes in farther than the other and it bugs you, you can put a flower there and hide it. So on here, I've got this nice flower on the left, not because there was a mistake or anything, but I just wanted one there. So flowers are pretty simple. I'm going to do one here, and I usually kind of start with my pencil in the air and start drawing a circle in the air before I place it down. And then I think of the petals as maybe a clock. So you have two petals across from each other, and you can use your pencil to create as many as you want. If you care about them being even, you can do it that way, or you can just randomly put a bunch of petals in. So I'm going to draw this pretty quickly so that we can get to the painting part. You can do as many or as few as you want of these flowers. You can have them be big or small. Maybe your petals are a different shape. That's the fun part about these paintings, is that we're doing all the same thing, but they all come out so differently. I know you guys are going to have really fun and interesting designs. And so at the end, if you want to share, or tomorrow, or whenever you finish your painting, if you want to share it with us, the best place to do that is on my Facebook group. And so if you have not ever signed up for my Facebook group, all you have to do is you go on Facebook and you search Sacramento Art Classes Students. Sacramento Art Classes Students, and you have to request to be in the club. But of course I will approve you. And the reason why we started that was that some students didn't really want to share their artwork with the whole planet. They only wanted to share with people who've already been students. So the only ones who can see it are anybody that's been approved to be in the group. So that's what that's about. Okay, once I get this flower done, I'm just going to use my eraser to erase away some of the sketchy marks and that center of the flower where the skull crossed through it. I think it's kind of nice to have overlapping flowers too. So we have this one here, but what if you had another one? And I'm not going to give a lot of detail with the pencil because the brush is going to be my friend on this. So I'm just going to kind of do a wiggly outline, and maybe this flower here is kind of behind the skull. So I've got a couple there. You can always throw in some leaves, or you can do it at the end. These leaves here I did not draw at all. I just painted them in at the end because I felt like I needed something. So let me get you one more flower maybe down here. Let's see, how about something different? Let me turn my paper sideways, and I'm gonna do, I don't know, sort of, how about like a sun shape, and then maybe another sun shape. The marigold is a flower that's used all the time in Mexican folk art, and so the Dia de los Muertos sugar skull like this is a Mexican folk art form. So maybe you want to do something that might remind you of a marigold, and bright, fun colors are always great to do. So for sake of time, these are the only flowers that I'm going to put on for now. And everything else that I did is designed on the fly with the paintbrush. So I did not draw any of these other designs, and I'm encouraging you to do it that way as well, because otherwise we'll be here drawing designs forever and forever. And you can always come back and add them later. So I think what we should do is, let me give you a couple seconds here to finish up a drawing, whatever you're drawing, and then we're going to start right in with the paints. So I'll pause here for a minute, and and then we'll see what happens. We'll get you caught up with your sketch, and then we'll get into some color. I have a specific plan of how I want you to lay on the color tonight too, because we're always thinking about how can we get stuff to dry in time during class, and so I'm going to do things in a certain order for that purpose. Okay, cool. Now I think I might be back on with my computer as well. Let's see. If not, I have the iPad. Okay, yep, we're back on in all the places. So I'm going to take this second to just plug in my heat gun. If you were joining a little bit late, or maybe you didn't hear, I suggested if you have a hair dryer or a heat gun, this might be a nice class to have that, so that we can get some of the things dried out more quickly. Okay, so here is my plan. I have a beautiful color called Moon Glow, and it is a kind of a purpley gray color. It's here on my palette, and I'll show you what it looks like. So I'll pull a little bit out from here and put it here in the palette so you can see it. It can be very dark and intense, but if you water it down quite a lot and dilute it with your water, then you can get a nice softer color, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to add a little extra water to it because I want to put some shadows into the face part first, and then I want it to be pretty diluted, so lots of water in there. And if you're nervous about it, you can always pre-wet your skull a little bit. So this is what I mean. Can you see on this one how we have a little bit of this gray color around here and there? I'm going to do that on mine. So just with some clear water underneath the eye, I'm creating kind of these dark circles under the eye. I'm thinking about all the places on the skull where it would be recessed or sunken in. So under the eye, maybe here in the cheekbones area, I'm putting a little water there. This is a technique called wet into wet. It's you're painting with wet paint, but you're painting on paper that is already wet. Okay, so I have under the chin here also. Now I'm just going to get some of that Moon Glow. You could use a blue if you like. You could use a purple. You could use Payne's Gray. And I'm just putting a little bit into the areas that I had already pre-wet. So here, these sides here. And what this does is, since the paper is already wet, and then we add this wet paint, it kind of it flows around on its own, and it flows smoothly, and it spreads itself, and it just thins out the color so it's less dark than you had originally put on. I'll put a little bit under the nose here too. So first with just water, and then with the paint. You can do this anywhere where you feel like you want to have that recessed shadow. Since I have a flower here, I'm going to put it around the flower a little bit too. It's kind of going to give me the feeling of there's a shadow that this flower is casting on the face, on the skull. Okay, and then once you get this on, you can just take a damp brush. The brush is damp, it's just water on there. There's nothing, no paint. And then you can kind of move this around a little bit. You can kind of blend it in, just have some fun. You're just creating shadows. And it will be maybe a mottled effect because you're moving the paint around with just water, and so that's okay because this is just a little bit of detail for us on the skull, and maybe I'll put a little bit up here too. And I'm having us do this first because I want this to start drying out while we're doing the rest of the background here. So I'll give you a minute to handle that, and then when you feel ready, maybe give me a little thumbs up or something so I know where we are. The next step, though, I'll just talk about it, is I want to do this background here. If we didn't put anything on the background, then that white skull and the white paper in the background would be interesting, but it wouldn't just pop. Having a darker color in the background here is really going to make that skull jump right out at us because it's going to be lighter and brighter, of course. And so the way to do that is similar to what you did on the face. You're going to pre-wet the canvas, trying to keep these flowers dry and whatever else of the skull dry. So if, for example, right here where this is wet and it's coming right up next to here, I may want to just leave a little space there. I'll talk about it when I get to that spot, but maybe I won't pre-wet all of that because I want to kind of keep a little, I don't want the colors to run too much together. So this is what I mean. I'm going to come over here on this side and just carefully, I guess I'm not being all that careful, but I'm going around that flower in between the petals. I'm going to take this water all the way to the edge of my paper. And as you're doing this, how about if you think about what colors you might like to use? You can use whatever you want. On this one I used something called, I think I used a little neutral tint on there, and I used up at the top a little bit of purpley color. So I'm just going to do the bottom half of the paper first, because if you try to wet the whole entire thing and then paint it, sometimes it starts to dry out before you really get all the way around. So I'm just going to do the lower half of the paper, carefully painting around here. And remember earlier I said right here where this dark on the inside of the cheek is coming up right to this where the white paper is, I'm just going to leave the slightest little unpainted gap there. So I'm leaving a little skinny piece of dry paper. That will create a water dam. It prevents this, whatever color I'm doing in the background, from flowing into the face, because so I have a little barrier of skinny little barrier of paper that is not wet. Okay, so you're probably still painting, but I'm going to show you what happens next, and then I'll pause so that you can catch up. I already have moon glow on the face, so I'll use a little bit more of it, but I'm going to put some other colors into it. So I'm putting some more out on the palette like you saw me do before, but I'm not diluting it as much. I'm keeping it a little darker. And then I'll start down here at the corners, and I'll put that in. I'm starting at the corner because I want to be a little bit away from the face for now, just until kind of gives you a little bit of time to sort of get used to having that color on there, and it's less stressful. You don't have to be so careful around the face. Okay, so here's my moon glow, and then I'm a big fan of turquoise, so I'm going to put a little bit of this phthalo turquoise that I have, which looks like this. It's a very intense color. You don't need a lot of it. It goes a long way. So I'm just going to touch a little bit of that into here just for fun. You can do any color you want as long as it blends nicely with your background color. So this background, the moon glow, is kind of purpley. So I probably would not want to put a yellow into that, because purple and yellow, when they mix together, they make a funky color. It'll be kind of a gray brown, and you may not want that in this case. So I'm just kind of dipping back and forth in between my turquoise and my moon glow. And if you get nervous, stay away from the skull. Work toward at the outer edge of the paper. There we go. And I'm just going to tip and rock my paper a little bit. I'm not using my brush too much to blend these colors, because I think it looks nicer if it happens organically. So I just let the paint flow and do its own thing. So here comes a little more turquoise over here. And remember, I'm keeping it away from the face there. Had that little barrier. And I'll go up towards this flower here, and that's where I stopped. Remember, I only did half of the paper. You can go back and you can take your brush and carefully clean up areas where maybe you didn't get all the way up to the flower petal. You can do that kind of a thing. Okay. And then you know me, I like to turn the paper, so also it helps so that my hand isn't resting in all that wet paint down there. And I'm just going to do the top half. So the same thing happens with just clear water. I'm wetting the rest of the paper. I'm keeping it off of the skull, and I'm keeping it out of the flowers, because anywhere that wet puddles are, the paint will flow into. So if you accidentally go into the skull, you're going to get that background color in on the skull. And that did happen to me on my sample right here on the cheek. I don't think you can see it. It happened right there, and I had to disguise it. Let me move it over a little farther. I disguised it by putting some type of decoration on top of it. So if that happens to you, you can quickly blot up as much as you can with maybe a paper towel or a Kleenex, and then you can try to hide it later. I bet it feels like this is going pretty fast, huh? We'll be able to slow down a little bit more in a minute once we get inside the face, because you'll have to. You want to do some precise design, so we have to go a little bit slower. And also, by the way, do you remember, was it last month we did that abstract? What did we do last month? I can't remember. Was that the month that we did the abstract kind of floral thing where we used white and black pens? You could totally do that on this, because if you look on Pinterest or online, at various images for the sugar skulls, you'll see that there's a lot of detail in there. And so after you're done painting, you can always add more detail by using Sharpies. Sharpies are good because they are permanent and what's the word? They're not water soluble, so they won't run. And they're a permanent pen. Or you could use a white gel pen if you want to do some light paint on top of something darker. So this is a perfect painting for doing that, but you do have to wait until it's all the way dry for that to happen. You see me putting little dots here. These are going to flow, like when I tip my paper, that turquoise I just put down is going to flow wherever the water is. So you can see it's moving here and it's moving down here. So you can use gravity to help you out on this. You don't have to be super precise, but I do like to help it out a little bit. And I'm being careful to stay off the skull so that that stays nice and white. If you came late, or maybe you didn't hear, this will be recorded, and so it will be available on Facebook for several months. You could invite a friend to look at it, or you could watch it again another time. If I went too fast, or if you just want to try it again a second time, you can do that because the recording will be up for you. All right, so I'm going to be okay with that, and I'll turn it back right side up and let you catch up. One thing you may not know about watercolors is that as they dry, they actually fade a little bit. So when you put it on and it's wet, it'll look really vibrant and bright, whichever color you're using. But as it dries, it does fade just a little bit. So this background is going to be a little more muted as it dries. And now, while you all are finishing this part of the painting, I'm going to use my heat gun and get this dried up, because I have to be a step ahead of you. So I'll take this time to let you catch up, and I'll dry my painting. You'll hear a little bit of noise. Okay, so I was concentrating on really the edge between the background and the face and flowers to make sure that was dry. I didn't focus so much out here because I don't mind that this is damp, but I'm really trying to keep it around the outline here dry. That way, whatever I paint on the flowers won't blend out into the background. So hopefully that makes sense. Can I get a few thumbs up or smiley faces or something to let me know that you all are ready to go on? And if you're not, I'll wait a little bit. I'll talk to you about colors while you're painting. So if you used similar colors to me, I want to talk about making things look, making stuff pop and making things really be fun and vibrant. And that happens by using colors that are opposite of each other on the color wheel. And I know maybe you don't have a color wheel in front of you, or you may not remember the layout, so I'm going to tell you. When you use complementary colors or colors opposite of each other on the color wheel, they really stand out. So for example, this is kind of a blue, turquoisey blue. The opposite of blue is orange. So I'm feeling like this flower, at least the outside, would be really great having that be an orange color. And you can do whatever you want, but this will just add an extra pop. So that's going to be the opposite there. If you used green, let's say, the opposite of green is red. If you used yellow, if you use purple, then the opposite of purple is yellow. So I have kind of some gray purple down here. So I'll probably have the outer section of this one, this flower here, be yellow. Okay, so that was purple and yellow are opposites. Orange and blue. If you used green, then you would choose red. If you used like a turquoise that's more towards green, you could use a pinkish red. That would show up nicely. Okay, so just a thought on that. Now I want to zoom us in a little bit closer before I start the painting process on this. And I don't think I saw any thumbs up, so I feel like people aren't quite ready, but I'm just going to zoom in a little so we can see better when I do the face. Come on, work with me. There we go. Oh, extreme close-up. This is a good time to maybe take a peek at some of those ideas that we saw on the internet of designs and decorations that you want, because anything goes. But I noticed that a lot of them have a flower in the middle of the eye, and like this, and some of them have like a ruffle or a, sort of a petal shape around the edge. And I'm going to do a flower for you. Let's see, I'll do one like this. I'm going to put that here. And then this guy is going to be sort of a combination, probably more like that. I liked this one better, but here's another thought down there. So I want to show you putting multiple colors in the petals. And then I want to show you a trick with the teeth. So those are some important things that I'm going to do. First will be the flowers and the teeth. This other stuff, really, you can kind of, there's not a whole lot of instruction that you need from me, because really you're just like kind of almost doing coloring book stuff for that. But on these flowers, I want to give you a little instruction, and on the teeth. So are we feeling like are people ready to go on? Just watching for some thumbs up or some happy faces or a comment. Okay, I'm starting to see a few things. There we go. Okay, it looks like people are being ready here. Okay, good. All right, so let's do this flower first. I'm excited about that one. I'm going to be using this brush, which is a number 6 round. It's a little bit smaller than the one that I used on the background because I need a little bit more detail on here. And this, and the color that I want to use is, I'm going to use this one called Windsor Yellow Deep. It's kind of a golden orangey yellow, but your choice. Use whatever you like. And mine dried out during, oh no, it didn't. If yours dried out, just go ahead and do a little mist in there or drip some water in there. Now, sometimes you see me paint wet into wet, like we did on the background where I did water first, and other times you're going to see me paint wet on dry. And this is one of those times I'm going to do this dry first. So there's not a lot of instruction on this just yet, except to say that as you paint this, please leave some white. There's a reason for it. So here and there, leave a few little hits of white, unpainted areas. So you can see on that one, there's a little spot. Now, if you're wanting to show people that you know where the light source might be coming from, let's say the light is coming from the top and it's going to hit this flower, I would probably leave a little bit more white towards the top where you see my paintbrush is pointing down like that. Okay, so towards the tops of each of these petals, that's where I'm going to leave mine, but it doesn't really matter. The reason that I'm doing this is twofold. One is that we're going to get some highlights in there, but two, it makes a more exciting petal when it's not just all one same color. So we're going to put a second color in on there. So here we go, coming around. Your face needs to be dry on this. And you can see on mine that there are pencil marks showing, and that is not a problem. It's a lot, if you go and look at galleries or paintings, a lot of watercolor paintings, you'll see that it's not a problem. It's not a bad thing to have pencil marks. If you don't like it, you can try to erase them out, but usually once you paint over the pencil, you can't erase it away. So you can see I did this kind of quickly because I wanted it to be a little bit of a messy feel on purpose, and I wanted to get all the way around the whole flower before it starts to dry, because now I'm going to take another color and let's do something fun. How about, I have a color here I think I mentioned earlier. I'm sorry, I told you the wrong name. This is called Rose Violet, but it's a magenta color. You could use a magenta or a red or an orange, but I'm just going to take a little bit of that and closer here in towards the middle of the flower, where the center, you know, the center of the flower is, I'm going to put that. So just a couple little hits, and because the yellow is still wet, it's going to blend together, and I'm going to leave it at that. So it's just a little bit. You can see that I left those little white highlights. Those are still there. And it's pretty choppy in the middle. I'm not worried about it being perfect. We'll come back and do that middle a little bit later once things dry out. And then your choice. You can either leave these whites white, or if you have another yellow like I do, I have this yellow called Hansa Yellow Light, which is a very bright and kind of, it's like a daffodil yellow, looks like that. I'm going to put a little bit of that into some of those areas. So I just have now a more exciting flower that has various different colors. And you can see that there is still some white of the paper showing, and it's a little bit messy, but I like that style for this. And that's all I'm going to do on that flower for now. And I'll pause for you to have a chance to catch up. Is anybody here tonight that hasn't said anything, and they maybe came, I met some of you. I was so happy to meet some of you at the show. I had a show in a gallery what was the date? I can't even remember the date. Second Saturday of this month. And then again, this past Saturday, although I wasn't there this past Saturday, but a couple people from these classes, that we do tonight came, and it was really fun to meet you. And I thank you very much. So if you're here, welcome back. And if you are not one of those, I'm still welcoming you back. It's good to have you here. I was telling people earlier that even when I have a really busy day and a lot of stuff going on at school, I'm a school teacher if you didn't know, it's always fun and relaxing to come and paint with you guys. It just ends the evening nicely. And then somebody always asks me, what am I going to have for dinner? But I don't know yet tonight. If I find out, I will let you know. I think I'm going to do this other flower next. I don't know if you created one like I did with these zigzags, but I won't do it yet because I kind of think you're probably still on that first flower, but I'll talk about it. I'm going to use this same brush, which is the number 6 round that I did on the upper flower, but I am going to be very loose and free with letting the white of the paper show, because I think it will add an interesting effect here. And if you remember when we were talking about the color wheel, how the opposite colors really look nice together. So since around this one I have kind of a purpley gray, I'm going to use yellow there. This is more of an orangey yellow, and I could have, up here, this is a more of an orangey yellow, and I could have done a full-on orange with this, but I think I get enough of the orangey yellow in there to make a nice bold statement between these two colors. But down here I'm going to use that lighter yellow that the Hansa yellow light. So do you think you're ready? I'm pushing you hard tonight. We have to finish up in 30 minutes, so I want to at least get through some more of this stuff. So I am going to move forward on this in just 1 second, but remember, if you feel behind, you can watch the recorded video. It usually populates on Facebook about 5 minutes after we're done with class. So if you hang out, you can always go back and look at it and fast forward to the section that you need. Okay, so with my Hansa yellow light, I loaded up my brush, and I'm going to start at the outer edge here of this flower. And I'm just going to follow kind of this zigzag pattern that I made with my pencil, but you can see that I'm being very messy and leaving a lot of white, and that's okay. And then before that dries all the way out, I'm going to get into my other yellow that I had, which is Windsor Yellow Deep. It's what I used on that upper flower. Load my brush with that and zigzag. It's pretty subtle because they're pretty close to each other, but I'm going to zigzag in there again using this same brush. If you feel more comfortable with a smaller brush, you could do that. And all I'm doing is just zigzagging back in there, so you can see that's the second pass. Lots of white showing still. It's going to give it a little sparkle. And then I'm going to go to an even darker. You could, if you had another yellow, you could do that, but I'm going to go right into it's called Quinacridone Sienna. It's an orange, it's a very nice orangey color. So here we go, and I'm going to put that on, and they overlap a little bit, so you're going to get some flow and some mixing together. This kind of reminds me of one of the, like a crepe paper flower that you might find on a piñata, or if you're at like a Fiesta Days thing where you see those big crepe paper flowers. This sort of reminds me of that. Okay, moving on. What if I go into a pink? You could go into a red if you want. Think about the rainbow. What colors come in what order? Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple. If colors are next to each other in the rainbow, they blend beautifully. So this pink should be able to be okay. We don't really talk about pink in the rainbow, but it is sort of in the red family. So there comes that. Pink. And now, I know that pink and purple will look great together, so I'm going to go into kind of a purple from there. My thought was to go from very light to very dark, so that by the time it gets all the way up to the skull, it's a dark color. So here comes another color. This one is called Bright Violet, so it's a purpley violet. There we go. What would you like next? Would you like a blue or would you like a dark purple? I'm gonna choose for you. I'm gonna say blue. Sorry. I'm choosing a blue called Peacock Blue. I know that that will look good next to this purple because purple and blue on the color wheel are pretty close together there. So I'm going to do a little bit of this Peacock Blue. And I have one small sliver of this flower left that is close to the skull, and that is where I'm going to put my very darkest color. I think I will use, It's going to either be a dark turquoise or a dark purple. I'm going to take the very dark purple. I'm going to use Windsor Violet. And still that same zigzag, although in this last one I'm going to just draw it right up next to the face. And if you need to, you can always switch to your smaller brush because you're in a little bitty area there and you may need that precision of a smaller brush. So I'm just going to carve that around the face. And we're done. And I'm going to hold it up to you a little bit closer so you can kind of see. So it went from very dark to very light. It's really, really dark in the center. And I don't love it quite that dark now that I've put that on there. I know it's going to fade some, but here's a little tip or trick. If you have that happen to you and you don't want it quite so dark, get a Kleenex or a paper towel and just carefully just give it one little blot. You can lift up some there. That's already better. Just a little touch out of there in the middle. Okay. So while you're catching up, I'm going to get my brushes rinsed out. The next thing that we'll do in a second is going to be the teeth. So I'll watch for a couple thumbs up and then we'll do the teeth. While you're working, I want to let you know that I have a website, and on the website I list these classes and also my weeknight classes that I teach. My website is sacramentoartclasses.com, and when you go in there, if you click on the art classes tab, it will show you the upcoming classes. The November ones are not yet posted, but they will be soon. And so remember, I'm looking for suggestions or requests. If you want to request something for the next Facebook freebie, you can pop it in the comments here. Or if you plan on coming to one of the other classes and you have a request for a painting, I'm still thinking of what the topic will be. Also on the website, you can sign up to get a newsletter, and I really only send it out about once a month, so you will not get a bunch of emails just because I don't have time. And that will alert you to anything that's going on, like a gallery show or new classes or anything like that, or just news. You can get that there. And if you have some free time and you're bored, I have a YouTube channel with a whole bunch of free videos on it. And that you need to search my name. So if you look up Margaret Blanchfield on YouTube, you'll see that a lot of the classes that I taught for kids when we first started having COVID, because I'm a school teacher, so a lot of the lessons I had for the kids, I made videos. And so if you want a little art activity for yourself or for kids or grandkids, there's a selection of probably over 60 videos there that are completely free that you could check out. So how are we doing? Do I get any thumbs up for the ready to go on for teeth? Looks like we need a little more time. Okay, a couple people ready. Okay, so when I do the teeth, here's the other sample. And I don't know if you can tell, but I used purple for the opening of the mouth there, and then I used this beautiful blue called Peacock Blue. Did I use Peacock? I used a different palette, so it may not be Peacock Blue, but I think it is. I used this beautiful blue for the teeth. So I'm going to use the same color combination here just because I like it. So this will be done with my smallest brush, which is a number 3 round. So it's about the size of a nail polish brush, but it has a little tip on the end. And what I want to do with that is with the purple first, because that's going to be my mouth opening. I'm going to carefully paint that mouth opening along in here, and I'm going to go in a second. I'll go in between the teeth and and you'll be able to see the teeth a little bit more easily, kind of defined. But for now, I'm just creating this line of the mouth opening. And it just looks like a black line because this purple is so intense. But right now I'm rinsing out my brush, and then just with a damp brush, I'm going to come back and pull, because this purple is still wet, I'm going to pull it around the teeth. So you can see I'm kind of defining and identifying the teeth by just pulling that purple around a little bit. Make sense? And every once in a while you may have to rinse your brush. I like to do this before this purple starts to dry because it moves around much nicer for us if it's if we move it while it's still damp. Okay, that makes sense. It's hard to talk and paint at the same time sometimes. Here I have this crooked part in my smile, so I'm bringing that down and around the tooth. And if you need to, you can always dip back into the purple. If you lose some of the darkness in there, you can bring that back. But this is really, I love doing things this way. I'm, really using the paint that's already there and just carving out this teeth shape so that it's not just, like a cutout straight line across. It's really giving it more of a snaggletooth look. Okay, and I think I said I was going to have one of these blacked out, so with that same purple I'm going to have this one be the guy. So I'm just giving myself a missing tooth right there by using that same purple or whatever color you've chosen to use in your mouth opening. You might have used a turquoise or something a little different. Okay, so there's my missing tooth. I like that. I want another one. I'm going to do one right here too. There we go. Okay. Now, if you're still working on that, it's fine. I'm just going to talk about the next step and then show it to you, but this is not a place where we have to dry in between. It actually kind of looks neat if you don't dry in between. Remember how different places we had to dry it up before we could go on? But on this next part, I'm going to use, it's called Peacock Blue. I'm going to use that to outline all the upper teeth first, just because it's, I don't know, I chose upper teeth. And I don't want to overwhelm you by outlining all of them. So all I'm doing is I'm following my pencil line, and I'm letting this blue go all the way down into that purple that I painted. So there may be some mixing happening and it kind of looks interesting. So we're just defining the teeth. I think it looks good when the colors run together. It just adds some interest. So if your purple is mixing in with your blue, that's okay. All right. And then I'm going to let it sit and dry just for a minute. But before it gets all the way dry, even this left side of the mouth that I've already done is much drier than the right side. So with the same brush, and I'm going to zoom in so you can see this better. With the same brush, and just water on it so it's damp. It's not dripping wet, it's damp. I'm going to come up here and just kind of kiss the brush up to, I'm inside the tooth. I'm going to kiss that brush up against some of this blue outline. And what it'll do is it'll make some of that blue run down into the tooth. See how I'm kind of moving it and pulling it into here? It gives us some shadowing on the teeth. And I'm not doing it on the whole tooth, just a little bit. And I think it adds interest. It's going to show up a little bit more right here because this one is really wet. So There we go. If you need to, you can blot your brush. If you get too much blue paint on there, just blot it. But see how it makes them look kind of like, I don't know, think of Jack Sparrow's teeth from Pirates of the Caribbean. They're kind of messed up and just dirty. But this is dirty with a pretty color. If you did it with black, then you could have cool, icky, black, gross teeth on your skull. Okay, and that's it. Then you're going to do the same exact thing on the bottom half with the bottom teeth. Let me check our time. So we're about 15 minutes until the end here. So I want to make sure to give you a taste of everything. It is so funny to me. No matter what I do, no matter how I try to choose a painting that I think we can finish in the amount of time we have, we always run over, always. So I'm sorry for that. I guess I have, I don't know, high hopes is the wrong word, but I guess I bite off more than I can chew here, because I'm not going to do the bottom teeth for you. Since now you already know how to do them, you can do them on your own. I'd rather show you some things that we haven't done yet so that you can really get your free money's worth out of this and learn as much as you can, and then handle the rest on your own. So so when you find a minute or a time to be done with the teeth, let me know, and because I'm going to wait a second for you to finish that, and then we'll talk about some other things on here before we go on. We're almost there. Okay, thanks people. All right, let's switch back to a little bit bigger brush. I'll use the number 6 again, which is the one that I did the other flowers with. I'm going to do this flower here, and it will be something like this one. So for that, you're going to do water on the whole thing. So we're doing wet into wet. This guy should be dry by now. I'm pretty sure yours would be dry. So with just clear water, I'm going to fill in this shape. Being careful to go around that yellow and staying out of the blue background color, just filling in with just water on this flower. Some of you who've painted a lot might have other ways of doing flowers, and so I'm excited to see what you guys show me. Hopefully you'll want to post these on the Sacramento Art Classes students page when you're done, so that we can all see, because it's so fun. I mean, we're all over the country tonight. There's lots of different people here, and so to be able to see what people are making far away is fun. At least for me, it's fun. Okay, so we don't have any green on here, and I just feel like it might be kind of fun to put some green in this. You don't have to. Choose whatever color that you like, but I'm going to use this color called Phthalo Yellow Green, which is a very pale kind of it's like a neon green almost. And so I'm going to take a little bit of that, and I'm going to just drop this paint in. When I say drop it in, I just mean touch your brush onto the paper, because remember, your paper is already so wet. If you just touch it on there and maybe tip or rock your paper, this paint will flow wherever you have already put water, so you don't have to be super precise about it. So I'm just going to get that color in there, and then with a secondary color, like I'll choose Phthalo Turquoise, which is a very deep turquoise. Maybe here along the skull where it's close, I'm going to put some of that Phthalo Turquoise. It's spelled P-H-T-H-A-L-O. And then I'm going to put some around this flower. I need a little more on my brush. Around this flower petal, because since this is a dark color that I'm putting on, it's really going to pop out that light flower petal. And then just tipping my paper. I'll do a little bit more up there. Okay, and then I'm going to leave that like that for just a few minutes and let that actually give me a little bit more right here. And then I'm going to leave that for a second and let it do its thing, and we're going to come back to that in a minute. While that's setting up, we'll do some eye work. You may have not used green, you may have used pinks or reds, so really this principle works for anything. I did light color on the whole entire thing, and then I did a little bit of dark kind of close to the skull to pop that skull out, and then underneath these petals as sort of a shadow look. Okay, so let's talk about eyes for a second. There's different ways to go, lots of different ways. These eyes have flowers that I painted leaving a white field in the background that you can see, you know, that are it's just white. Now the other way to go would be having a dark background and then the flowers be light. If you want to do that, I suggest it might be easier for you if you draw first. You don't have to, but I'm going to do it this way just because maybe you need to see that. You can give yourself any kind of flower, make it simple. You've been maybe drawing flowers since kindergarten, so I'll just do something like that. And that will be my flower color, whatever color I choose for it to be. But all this background, I want to paint that really dark. So I have lots of choices of dark. I could use this dark turquoise that we've already used. I could use any of the, like the purple that we had in the teeth. I could use black. It's going to be up to you. Let me think about this for a second. I'm going to use, you could use something like a Payne's Gray, which is it depends on what brand you have. Sometimes it's more of a blue gray. Sometimes it's more of a purple gray. But I think I'm going to use like what am I going to do? I'm mixing up something. I'm going to use kind of a blue-black. So if you have black, you can just use pure black, but I like to mix a little color into my black, so I'm just putting a little bit of Peacock Blue into this mixture, and then what I will do is paint in on dry paper. I'm just going to paint in the area around this flower. I think it looks nice when this, you know, you have that dark background. So I'll put these two side by side, the one that I already did and the one that I'm doing now, and then you can decide. Maybe you prefer one of these looks over the other. So as you're watching me, you probably think, wow, that just looks like black. But if you were, as it dries and fades, and if you were here in real life and not looking at it on a monitor, you'd see that it's kind of like a smoky blue-gray. And the reason I like to do it, you know, add blue into my black is because black can look like a black hole. I mean, it's just seriously dark. And I don't always want that effect. I want it to be dark, but I don't want it to be swallowing up everything. So that's why I like to add color into my black. Okay, so what I'm doing right now is painting this black all around the flower, and this is actually a technique called negative painting or negative space painting, or sometimes people even call it back painting. You're painting the background. So the flower I'm not touching, I'm painting everything around it, and that's the negative space around the flower. The flower is the positive image and the rest of the eye socket is the negative image. Okay, so there's a flower. Then what I would do is I would let this background dry and then paint the center with any color that I want. And since again we're pressed for time, I don't want to do both of these. I'm just going to show you that technique, and you can see side by side. Let's move this over a little bit. You might say, well, which do I prefer? Do I like this dark background? Oops, I don't think I can get them both. Yeah, I can. Do I like this dark background where I'm going to have a bright popping flower that comes out? Or do I want a white background with a multicolored flower in there? It's up to you. All right, so in a second I'm going to go back to this green flower thing that we had here. Remember, we were sort of letting it rest and letting it dry. And mine is still a little bit shiny, so I'm not going to do anything just yet. I'm going to wait just a little bit longer. but I want to show you something simple to do with the center of this other flower. It's probably totally dry by now. You've already used a lot of different colors in here, so I would maybe choose one of the colors from before that you enjoyed. And we're going to do, in the center of the flower, just some spots. Just random spots. I'm using my small brush. Some whites of the paper are still showing. Some of the spots are overlapping, some are maybe slightly bigger than the other, slightly smaller. All that is okay. I'm bouncing us around a lot because I'm strategically trying to let certain areas dry while we're working on other areas. Okay, so that's the center of that. Now you can leave it like that if you want, or you can put in, I'm thinking of what color I want. You can put in another color in that center. Since we were using that pretty blue before, the Peacock Blue, and it'll mix nicely with that pink, I can take some Peacock Blue and tap that in here. Some of it's going to mix because it's all wet here. Some of it's going to mix with that pink, but other parts of it is going to stay blue. Other parts are going to stay blue, I should say. And then I'll probably still even have some areas that are white. So it gives us more of an interest to the center of this. We're not just painting just one middle color that's all the same. We're kind of making it more interesting and leaving little whites like we've been doing on this one. It gives this some sparkle. So little hits of light. Okay, so that's my center. If you choose, you can always do something like pull some of the pink or the blue, whatever color you used, out into the petals just a little bit to maybe kind of define them. Just a little bit of a line separating each petal out a little bit if you like. It's up to you. I'm throwing a ton of stuff at you so that you have ideas. You know, you can do whatever you want to do. I'll just pull a few more out. There. Okay, and that'll be that on that petal. Pretty soon I'm going to come back to that green flower. I'm almost ready, but I know you're trying hard to keep up, and I don't want to scare you away by going crazy fast. So I'm going to wait for a minute here. And actually, I'm going to zoom out too so that you can see more of the whole deal here. Whoops, wrong way. There we go. And now we can see everything. I know it's far away right now, but I just wanted you to kind of see them side by side for a second. I'll get us in a little bit closer. I wonder sometimes if they make a something that I can focus. I'm using my iPhone, so I have to kind of pinch in or pinch out when I'm trying to zoom in and out. There must be some type of remote control thing that lets me zoom in and out without standing up here on the chair and going back and forth with my fingers. But if there is, I don't know what it is yet. Okay. Okay, if too much time has passed and your green flower feels a little bit dry, if you can touch it and get paint on your finger, you're still okay. But if it's too dry that you can't have that happen, you may want to just put a little water on it. But what I was trying to have you do on this one is, just like we did on here, all I did was some simple mark making on there to kind of give you that swirl of the flower shape. So I'm going to use the smallest brush that I have, and I used a Phthalo Turquoise on there, so I could use that again, or I could switch to a different color. I'm kind of leaning a lot towards this Peacock Blue tonight just because I like it so much. So I'm going to do that, and all I did all I'll do on that is the center of the flower would kind of be right here. It would be behind the skull a little bit. So I'm pretending that that is the center. And I'm just doing just swooshy marks to give us the illusion of petals happening there. And mine is wetter than I expected it to be. So they're blending together a lot, and you can even define your outer edge if you want to. But it just breaks it up. It gives us something different to look at. It changes that. And then later when it's all the way dry, I could go back and redo those lines again to really bring them out, because they are fading together quite a lot. So that's just another type of flower that you can do. Okay, so we're in the home stretch here, and we have quite a lot left to do. I want to apologize. As usual, I bit off more than I can chew here, but let me tell you how to go ahead and finish this out. You already know how to do you did the upper teeth, so the lower teeth are going to be the same situation. You already know how to do this eye background, so you could you'll do your other eye the same way with a background. You have a choice with the nose. You could use this same color that you already used on the eyes, but since there's nothing in the middle of the nose, like there's no flower in there, what I might suggest is this. Get that same color that you used on the eye and fill in the nose, but let me put this down and then I'll hold it back up again in a minute. I'm filling it in, but I want to drop in another color into this nose just to keep away from that kind of boring, it's all the same color, a black hole situation. So same color as the eye, but now, you know how I like that Peacock Blue so much, I'm going to take a little of that on my brush and just touch it in here. So I'm just giving myself a little hint of another color. Can you see that okay? I think I may have to zoom in for you. I don't think you can see it very well zoomed out, so let's do that. There we go, that's better. Okay, so we talked about lower teeth, we talked about the other eye, we talked about dropping some color into the nose, and then the only, once you finish all those parts, you can decide, do you want to add some leaves? If you do, you can paint your leaf. If you used your paint dark enough, it'll go right over the top of your background. You can add some leaves in there, and then all your mark making. So I just used a small brush, and I looked online and I got ideas for different marks. I did the ruffles around the eyes, some little swirls, dots. You can have eyebrows or no eyebrows. Somebody at school was doing one of these, one of the kids, and they did a mustache, so you could have a mustache on your person. What else can we do? Oh, and I talked to you about pen work. So let me grab here from the past. A little bit ago we did another painting where we used the pen, and so when you're all done with this and it's all dry, if you're interested in doing that, it's something that you can do at a later date, not tonight, but you might get something like this. So we did swirly marks, we did little flower shapes, and so this is ultra fine Sharpie. It's a very fine point, so not regular Sharpie, but ultra fine. And then this is a gel pen, or here's another one. So these kind of marks are really fun to have on your sugar skull, and they can go anywhere that they need to go. You can do them inside the eyes, you can add embellishments in your flowers, pretty much anything that you want. So let me look at the comments here and see if anybody's asking me a question before I sign off. Let's see. Hello, Karen from Stockton. You said you've been in a few meetings tonight. Oh, okay. So sorry, you missed the beginning. So Karen, this is recorded. So as within a few minutes of this ending tonight, Facebook will post it up as a recording so that you could catch up and look at what you missed while you were at work. But I'm glad you could make it, and I'm zooming out so you can get the full effect. Sorry to rush everybody, but I guess that's how it goes here. It's like our usual thing. We're always trying to finish stuff. But I think you get the hang of it. Please remember, it would be great to see your work posted on the Sacramento Art Classes Students Facebook group. So just look up, if you want to be in the group, just look up Sacramento Art Classes Students, and you have to ask to get in, and I will approve you, and then you can post your work there and we can all see it. It's a very supportive group. Everybody will give you lots of compliments, so it'd be fun if you would be willing to do that. Thank you again. Look for the next class next month. I will set a date soon, but since we have Thanksgiving, it's hard to know exactly when that's going to happen. So I'm going to switch up the camera here, so if you get dizzy, look away. That way I can, I want to say goodbye to you in real life, in person. This is, by the way, my back wall of my studio, so you're kind of seeing what's on the back wall there. I should make it be more interesting for you. So here we go. Okay, people, thank you so much for being here. As always, it's fun having you. I'll leave this live for a couple minutes in case you need to look at the artwork for a little bit longer, but hope to have you back next time, and have a safe and fun and happy Halloween. Maybe you can tell me what you're going to be if you're going to dress up. I don't know. I need to dress up at school, and then I have a couple of parties, so I have no idea what to be, but something. Don't forget, if you want to make a request for next month's painting subject matter, let me know, or if you're in the night classes and you want to suggest something for that too. I always love that. So thanks. Have a good night, and I'll see you next time. I'll put you back down on the table so you can look at the art again. See you later.